Yes, thank you so much. My name is Hermína Gunnþórsdóttir, and this is our small but nice campus at the University of Akureyri. We are quite a young university. I think when you started your university journey, we were just thinking about what to eat tomorrow. But that's a different story. So I work at the teacher education department, and I've been there since 2008, I think. And what I do in my teaching and researching is more or less related to social justice in education, inclusive education, multiculturalism, and multilingualism. So, and what I decided to do is, because I know Gry, we have worked together in our projects, and I knew what kind of foundation she would have for the first day. So I decided to introduce you to some of the practices and some of my experiences with working with teachers and students. So I have a lot of teachers, and I will bring you a bit on a journey for the Icelandic winter. I'm sure you're excited. Go into the cold. So, because we have been talking about places and how we relate to places, and when we tend to introduce Iceland, we often see these beautiful pictures from a landscape and tiny houses, and really everything seems to cozy and nice. And but nowadays you also see the shift. That's because the picture to the left is from a cultural house in Reykjavik. So people tend to, you see it when it's introducing the country or whatever they're introducing. These pictures are starting to slide in as well. So not only the countryside and the beauty there, but also something from the city that is also nice and beautiful, and people can kind of relate to. And this is, if you come to Iceland, if you haven't been there, it's a beautiful building. It's with glass walls from China, and it's like a glacier. You're like within a glacier. So but these photos to the right, it's from my neighborhood, so where I come from. The small hut is from a valley close to where I grew up, and the picture below is from Hrísey, a small island that we have been working with in our Erasmus Plus project, and I will talk about later on. So what I would like to do is to talk about a course that we have in the teacher education program in my university, and it has been there for, I think, most of the time that we have been doing teacher education for almost 30 years. And then I want to draw attention to the national curriculums and how and if they are kind of barrier or supporting all kinds of ideas, new ideas, going beyond the curriculums, what is possible. And then also the teaching initiatives, because what we have seen, and some of the examples that I am taking are from teachers' initiatives. And then they somehow find their ways into the curriculum. And I will end with this Erasmus Plus project called Iceland. Okay, and so I come from this town or village. You might see it on the picture to the right. Few houses by the coast, and I think it's now about 1,500 people living there. So it has been a stable number of people, and it's about 30 minutes from the University of Akureyri. And when the university was established, it was a similar idea, as you might know from other countries like Tromsø. It was important for the region to build up some knowledge outside the capital area. And now a lot of people live and work by the coast in maybe 100 kilometers distance from the university, including this small fishing village. And but to the course, and it's translated into local studies. I took the description from the English website of the curriculum, and in Icelandic it would be grenndarkennsla, and that would be teaching about your neighborhood, but it's translated into local studies. And so it's a mandatory course, and it's the biggest course in the program, 10 ECTs. And they're actually trying to somehow draw attention and to what teachers can do when they come to the profession. And it's a lot about outdoor education and also the regional culture and how they kind of intertwine local studies with teaching of all ages and subjects. So it's because it's mandatory, all students have to take it. And I think it has been, I'm not teaching on this course, but because it is well known and I always kind of follow the students a bit through other courses, I know this is a popular course. They do a lot with it after their education. So I was just wondering, because I didn't have time to look into all your curriculums, and I was just wondering if this is something that we have in all our teacher education programs or not, so we can discuss it afterwards. Mm-hmm. And because the interesting discussion has been about the regional culture, as Iceland is becoming more and more diverse, what kind of topics we bring into these courses? Is it simply just the old culture, or do we bring in some new culture? I'm not sure how that has developed, but I think this tends to be quite traditional still. Well, the Icelandic national curriculum is from 2011. Last 13, depends on what we take. If we talk about the changes, it's in constant change, and it's not as it has been all these years. So they are changing it constantly, but it's built on these 6 fundamental pillars, and that's a general part for all school levels. It's the same general part for kindergarten, primary, and secondary, and these 6 fundamental pillars are through all these school levels. So that's literacy, sustainability, health and welfare, democracy and human rights, equality and creativity. And because we have had this curriculum for some years, teachers have been, I think they're quite good in working with these pillars and trying to squeeze all because it's not it's not a subject in itself, except perhaps literacy. It should squeeze into all other subjects. And you see it when you come to schools, how they kind of try to focus on these and have them actually visually in their teaching. And then it's different, of course, how they deal with it on each school level. And when I looked a little bit about your curriculum, did I get the correct document? The Scottish Curriculum for Excellence, yes. And so I was wondering, because when you have these 4 capacities, responsible citizen, confident individual, successful learner, and effect contributor. And I was wondering if these capacities are similar to our fundamental pillars. Are those 4 supposed to lead through everything, or is it just some results?
Yes and no, I think.
Yes and no. Yes.
Just isn't it?
I think it's meant to be everywhere, but actually it's nowhere.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right.
Well, that's not true. It's in all your job interviews.
Yeah. Right.
You might make sure to talk about it there.
Yeah. So I was interested in what I wonder how flexible is our curriculum to allow us to do kind of whatever we want within this frame that we are supposed to do. And because we saw, for example, in the Rink Project, we have Scotland with us, and Iceland, and the Netherlands, and Greece. And we, for example, saw that the Greece partners, they are struggling a lot with kind of putting the emphasis of the Rink Project into their curriculum, because it's really, really strict, and they almost have to. There's almost a description, very strict description of what they need to do, and monitoring and etc. So there's a very little flexibility, or less flexibility than we have experienced with the school in Iceland. And I think this is really important when we think about how we educate new teachers, how they look at the curriculum, and if it is a guiding tool or steering tool, or what kind of tool is it? And then the initiative for teachers. For some years there has been a ongoing project in each school in Akureyri. There are 7 primary schools, or compulsory schools, to call them. They are from 6 to 16. So we combine primary and lower secondary in one compulsory school. And there was an initiative of this teacher called Brynjar Karl, because he was interested in history and his neighborhoods. And he started with a course for the older grades. They could choose. There was some selection of courses that they could choose. And this was one of the courses. And he called it the neighborhood grail. I think I got it right. The grail is the holy grail. Yeah. So it was a game actually. 10 weeks. Oh yeah, now it has changed. Sorry. So it was just for one school. The kids took part. They kind of learned about the neighborhood, and there was some play and games, and in the end there were some awards. And it's a game that you all know. You hide something, and you have to get some clues, and you have to search, and in the end you win a prize if you can solve all the puzzles. And but now it has been for, when did he start it? I think in 2008, yes. But now it's part of kind of what all schools really take part in. So it has spread out to all the schools in Akureyri. And alongside this, he also encouraged the students to have a say about their environment, what they learned through this play. And he started to encourage them to send in an article in local papers, write about whatever they felt about the neighborhood. And this one boy wrote just one example about the traffic in his neighborhood. And then more and more articles came. You saw them constantly writing something about whatever it was. So what he was doing was giving them a voice, but also helping them to understand the neighborhood and value what they have, and what they could somehow also they could make changes. So all about critical thinking and raise awareness, and kind of that they should have their voices would have meaning for the community. So this is just one example that I started to pick. And another one is from then upper secondary school for 16 to 19 years old. And this is a school in the southeast, and it's literally under the glacier, Vatnajökull. I don't know if you see it, but it's here. It's called Höfn in Hornafirði. And it's a small secondary school. But for 30 years, and I didn't know about it until I started to look into this. That has been on for such a long time. But the teachers started for 30 years to take the students in one course on natural science to measure the glaciers. Just two of them. There's so many. As you see in this, we have it's a brand new, and also I didn't know about it. It's a glacier web portal, and you can go online and click on each of the glaciers, and then you get information about the sizes and how they have been doing, and we think about them as living creatures, and if they are shrinking, which they are. And this is from my area, called the Trollpensulia, and here is Akureyri, and here is Hrísey, and here is my village. But the two glaciers in Höfn, they have been measured by this group of students for 30 years. And they have been working with the scientists. It's not just a local project for them. It's a real project. And this goes into all these databases that the scientists are using. And on their websites, on the school's websites, I just took it to Google Translate, so it's. But I think you can get it more or less what it's about. So they are actually explaining. This is their words. They are both training them in these methods, but also getting them to know what is going on, and it's their environment, it's their local it's their glaciers. So it's really interesting project, and also not only about the glaciers. It took also they're also measuring the what's on the. There's a big beach or sand area that they're also measuring, and also what was it? It was the birds, the swan population. So this is what they are doing there. I've been doing 30 years, and now it's has developed into they didn't have it in English. It has developed into changes of the curriculum, because it wasn't that before. So now it's part of what they do, and also what they have been doing is, this is what they say, this is our study options, námsbrautir, the red ones, and then there's one option here called fjallamennskunám, and it's about guiding in the mountains. Mm-hmm. So if you go to this upper secondary school, you can choose this study line to learn to become a mountain guide. And it's a fully accepted then, because the ministry needs to accept everything. And so it has developed into this. And this is what I mean by, can we make changes ourselves in the curriculum? So these upper secondary schools have quite a lot of freedom to create their own study lines. They all have these classical options, but they also can create their own. And quite many of these smaller upper secondary schools have been doing this. This is only one example. There are many examples. And they're looking into the local environment, neighborhood. What do we have and what can we make out of it? So, And then the Erasmus Plus project, called Icelandic, and this is their homepage. And it is initiated from a Dutch collaboration with the school on the island Friesland, and the Learning Hub Friesland. Learning Hub. Don't you remember the name again? Who was leading it? But the idea was to create some pedagogies that we can adapt to these small island schools and isolated regions, but educate young people to become, as they said, autonomous, self-thinking, creative problem solvers who can contribute to the region's future. And what we do is that we are now in the last year, was maybe for 2 or 3 years. What we do is that we work with 4 schools in Greece, the Netherlands, Iceland, and the school on the Barra Island here in Scotland. And we created so kind of matching scan where kids, they had an online meeting, and they kind of it's maybe similar to Tinder. They just find their partners. I've never been to Tinder, but I think it's the same idea. We have to find a partner that fits to us, and they get all kinds of questions, and it's all about finding a school that is willing to work on a shared project with you. So they first go to that step, and then they decide the topic. And so the school in Iceland, the Hrísey and Friesland, they kind of found each other on this matching scan Tinder. And then they had another meeting where they decided what kind of topic they wanted to focus on. And we decided to focus on plastic in the ocean, sustainable tourism, and sustainable transport. And we had nothing to do with this. This was their topics. And what we do as our researchers, we work with the teachers and the students to kind of develop the teaching material and help them kind of find their ways in how to work together. And then we created an 8 weeks program for the teachers according to these topics, and it should, in the end, lead we should hand in some policy recommendations in the end. So the kids are all aware that they are doing something that should have some changes. And then they worked on this, the plastic in the ocean. They worked on that, only one topic, last year. And in the end, this is from the Hrísey school. And in November last year, they held an open meeting where they invited various stakeholders from the municipality. And we helped them. We did that actually. We sent out the invitation and we took care of that. And then I think it was about, how many were we? Between 20 and 30 who traveled to the island and had this meeting with the kids and discussed all kinds of challenges and what they have been doing and etc. And then there will be a conference in the Netherlands in June where they will introduce the findings from these topics, both plastic and the tourism topic as well. And it was amazing to see what came out of this, because you think that they need much more time to get into these topics and try to figure out what everything means, but they know so much more than you can imagine. So they were quite quick to dig into this. And next, these are the questions that we kind of raised. for the groups. We were working in several groups on tables all over the school, and the kids were leading each group. And then these were the questions that we raised. How can the role of the schools on the islands be further strengthened? And how can existing policies, both regional, national or European, be adapted to meet the needs of island schools? And how can future policies be created to meet the needs of island schools? And these are pictures from Hrísey. I think the number of students in the school, I think they are 22. So this is a school of children of 22, including kindergarten. So it's a tiny, tiny, tiny school. But they say we want to live on this island. It's not far away from, it's just a quarter with a ferry to the mainland. So quite many, some of the people who live there work in Akureyri, take a ferry to the next town and then they drive to Akureyri. And the idea was to help them to figure out, if we want to live here, what do we need to do? And the next topic will be, we are just about to finish the teaching material for the sustainable tourism. And the school in Hrísey and Friland will start working on that in February. And in both the islands, the tourism is quite a hot topic, because the Friland island is heavily, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of tourists there, less in Hrísey, but it is increasing a lot. And I took these pictures from a company that I have no relations to. It's just open on their websites. And but they are working. If you see this picture here, Hrísey is here. This is a heli skiing company, and there are quite many in this area. They are bringing people who have a lot of money to the mountains, and they are not using helicopters. And they are operating on both sides. It's a fjord, very narrow fjord, and the Hrísey is in the middle. And they are operating on this side and also on this side. So they are constantly flying over the island as well. And all the cruise ships that come to Akureyri, who are far too many, they sail into this narrow fjord. And I think all of them are using oil. Maybe some Norwegian ships might use electricity. But many. No. But at least this will be so interesting when we go into this topic to explore how they see the tourism in their small island, and what is kind of supporting it, the life of the island, and what is kind of negative. But on the other hand, because we are trying to help them to discuss and figure out, there are different types of tourism. Tourism is not just a tourism. Some tourism might be damaging for their community, but other types might be supporting it or have positive effects. I don't know what we're able to figure out. We will see in the spring when they have done the work. And because we see always of a winter, in the winter tourism, it's always very positive pictures like this. Just you are just there and just the nature, but you have to travel there. You have to you do all kinds of negative things as well, but that's not on the pictures. Yeah. So it's maybe left in the islands. I think I'm about to finish. Yes. And then when I got this wonderful opportunity to be here, and thank you so much. And I even decided to come here, although today is my
my husband got married 20
Oh,
years ago on this day. So I would be with us when I come home. I will deal with that when I come home. Okay, but when I thought, okay, what is Northern pedagogy? What is Arctic pedagogy? So is it something new, or is it simply what we have been doing, or what is it? So the Rink Project is definitely something that could be said, okay, this is definitely a relevant Arctic pedagogy. It's a pure community-based education. And it also relates to social justice and inclusive education. And we have seen that the teachers, because they are very good at helping students to have a different role in this project. They are not all immersing themselves into the same thing. Some of them are just photographing the whole work, making films, photos, or writing about it, or whatever. So they are not doing all the same all the time. And but they're all somehow participating and thinking into these issues. And it has been amazing to follow this group of kids and how they connect. And in May last year, the Dutch school came to visit Riese, and we had a lovely spring with a less snow during the winter. But in May, it all of a sudden started to snow. And they were playing football. I should have taken some photos into this from that time as well, but they were playing football in some layers of snow in Riese. And but that was amazing. And but they both connected to kids in Holland, in Finland, to us as well as researchers, and we connected with the teachers and also with the community, because they were telling the community about what they were doing in the school. So it has been a big project of building relationships. And the nice thing when you walk the coast is that you always meet some interesting people or not people, or what we call it. And this one was characters, yes. On my way the other day before it started to snow. And this one, I wanted to finish with this one. Because when I was here in May last year, we had a hotel somewhere here, and we always passed this sign, and I thought, I had never seen it before. What is this? And then we asked Liz and Kirsty, and they said, oh yes, because I think there's an elderly home in the neighborhood. But what I found interesting was someone had added these eyes. And also, if you are elderly, then you look like this. So it's assuming that when you're elderly, then you look like this. So some assumptions, that's how people are. So I think this was the last one. Yes.
Thank you.